Good evening. My name is Gary Humienny, and welcome to Island View. November 2nd, Election Day, will go down as the most important day in Staten Island's history. You as Staten Islanders will be given the opportunity to vote to either stay with the city or to separate away from it. Back in 1990, Staten Islanders passed a referendum through to create a commission to draft a charter in which, if passed, would govern the new rules and regulations for the future of Staten Island as a city.
Many people who have been involved with the issue, the Chamber of Commerce has been involved with the issue for some time. They had all their professionals study whether or not we could secede, whether or not we could afford to secede. People who will stand to be taxed more heavily under a small city have overwhelmingly endorsed the idea of Staten Island secession.
If the state of New York passes legislation and they set up a methodology by which we may address this issue, and they provide for a sequence of events and the development of a charter, and we in Staten Island, funded by the people of the state of New York because their money is in it, you know, we're all sworn to uphold the law, we in good faith deliver a good product. It would be an act of moral arrogance to dismiss it airily and say, well, I've changed my mind. I don't think that's possible.
The charter that was written by the Charter Commission, frankly, stinks. It was written to mimic New York City and make us a mini New York City with a mayor and a city council. It was streamlined so that you'd have a land use process that got rid of community input. They got rid of the community boards. Crane's New York Business, in an article in August, characterized it as seductively pro-business, turning over land development into the hands of the developers and getting rid of the meddlesome community boards.
For him to suggest that we lose the strength of the community boards only have the authority that's been given to them. They're not elected, and they don't give them they can't pass any laws. All they can do, and they've done it well, I think, is to surface an issue and say, well, this issue, and then maybe make a recommendation. But that's all they can do. And that's all Staten Islanders can do is make recommendations, you know. We don't have any powers of disposition. The city of New York has it because the numbers are there. We don't have it because the numbers aren't.
The opposition never has offered Staten Island, as long as I've been involved, and it goes back years and years and years, compromise. I always thought government was compromise. And when we come through and we say Staten Islanders are having trouble with service delivery and all these other complaints that we have, I always thought that government would come by and say, okay, how can we help you? How can we establish a better service delivery? Not once has that been established for the people of Staten Island. And what we finally did is when Staten Islanders said we're going to secede, what happened then? Not compromise, but a campaign of fear politics that has been started about 3 years ago, in which the people have singled out our minorities, our people on fixed incomes, and the people that work for the city. They tell the minorities that it's going to be disastrous out here if you're a minority, an ethnic minority, or a language minority. They tell the people on fixed incomes that your taxes are going to go through the roof, because we're not going to have enough money to pay for it, and they tell the people who are city employees that you're going to lose your job. It's the campaign of fear politics.
A lot of Staten Islanders work for the city of New York. There's no question that by proportion, Staten Island in percentages provides one of the greatest percentages of city workers of any borough or any county anywhere. And we have people who have, through the years, attained a great deal of seniority with the city of New York. People work for the police and the fire department and as teachers for years in order to get promoted to get a job on Staten Island. They are at the top of the pay scale. If people think that Staten Island, when it negotiates its contracts, are going to be able to pay our teachers and our firemen, our policemen, anything near what New York City can pay, they're wrong.
The Staten Island Charter Commission that looked at all these issues found and put provisions in the new charter for the city of Staten Island that will protect city employees' jobs. They put provisions in the charter that would allow representation of people on fixed incomes, 15 city council people, so that there's no way in the world that those local people are going to raise astronomically the taxes on their own constituents. And minorities also, with 15 members of the new City Council of Staten Island, they're going to be well protected and well serviced in the new city of Staten Island.
I am in favor of secession. I feel the city of New York has always treated Staten Island unfairly, and I do not see the situation improving. Last night I attended a commission hearing on property tax reform, and if this commission does what we all expect it to do, our property taxes are going to go sky high here in Staten Island if we stay part of New York City.
What you're voting on is a leap of faith for secession. You don't know what you're going to get. You're not going to know what you're going to get until this legislation goes to Albany, and then in Albany we will face a powerful assembly of New York City politicians in a divorce situation.
Every day it's a fight. Every day it's a struggle. And every day we're battling people. And it's not our policies. It's the central bureaucracy, the mayor's policies. Don't care what mayor it is, whether it's Republican, whether it's a Democrat. It doesn't matter. If this doesn't come through, we'll be doing the same thing all over.
The way I see secession, it's a wake-up call to New York City. It's basically saying to New York City, if you don't deal with the problems of Staten Island equitably and fairly, you're going to have the same problem in Queens very shortly thereafter.
64% of the people statewide use cars to go to work. The island percentage is also 64%. In the other boroughs, it is 31%. Staten Island is the second wealthiest borough in New York City. Staten Island has only 10% below poverty line. For those who are worried about tax increases and are hesitant about voting for secession, they most assuredly will face large tax increases if they do not secede. But when I consider the mistreatment that has accelerated in recent years and look at the dark future of New York City, I come to one inescapable conclusion: secession is a risk worth taking.
To secede or not to secede, that is the question on everyone's mind. Whether it's good or bad, it will be you who will decide the fate of Staten Island. So this November 2nd, go out and vote.
We had the choice, like everyone else, to vote for the mayor of New York City. But at the same time, we had the choice to decide whether or not to secede from New York City. 65% of Islanders said yes to secession, and almost as if we wanted to do so without any guilt, we leave the city in competent hands by contributing an overwhelming 83% of our vote toward electing Rudolph Giuliani the next mayor of New York City. On election night '93, our Island View news team secured its cameras within the New York Hilton, where Giuliani and his supporters were celebrating the election results.
As Jackie Gleason used to say, how sweet it is! I have an announcement to make. About 5 minutes ago, Mayor Dinkins called Rudy Giuliani and conceded the election.
You fought to take back your city, and let's stick together, and next year let's fight to take back our state. Let's give it to them. Hey!
Every 20 or 24 years, the Liberal Party joins with the Republican Party and the independent wing of the Democratic Party to bring on fusion reform government and do a clean sweep of City Hall. Four years ago, we miscounted, but we knew we had the right candidate, and tonight, he has been elected the next mayor of New York City.
We have to know, everybody in the city knows, we are so lucky tonight because a man like Rudolph Giuliani is going to be taking care of us for 4 beautiful, maybe 8 long, wonderful years. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Rudolph Giuliani.
The last time I addressed a crowd like this, it was to thank you after I had lost. Now, I want to thank you for electing Rudy Giuliani, who I believe will be a great mayor.
Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. From the very start, and tonight is that start, I want New York to know and understand my stated goal. My administration will be universal in its concern, sensitive to our diversity, and even-handed in every way possible. The agenda during the next 4 years is full. There's much to do, and I can only do it with your continued support and with your help. As we look to the future, we must proceed with one thing in mind. Whatever adversity we face, we will face it together, and whatever the benefits, they will be distributed evenly and fairly. The election is now over, and we will move together as New Yorkers. All of us have to be part of that process. It'll be a period of transition for us, but a passage of necessity if we are to overcome structural budget deficits and administrative deficiencies. During my term of office, you can count on me to be an activist mayor. I'll not remain silent while our city is in trouble. I will speak out when I see uneven standards applied. I'll lift my voice when I hear injustice of any kind. And I won't even begin to think about pausing for breath until our city is being managed and is on the road to social and economic recovery. That is my hope for all of us tonight. The reality awaits our arrival about 6 o'clock in the morning. There is no way that I will ever be able to thank you. Many of you were here with me 4 years ago to reform and to change our city. You're here now. Many more have joined you. And before we're finished, the whole city will join us as we move forward to be a greater and a better city. God bless you.
This past November 2nd, our Island View news team went to the Island Chateau in Grasmere, where anxious Islanders and politicians celebrated a major step in an ongoing campaign to have Staten Island gain its independence from the city of New York.
Staten Island, exercising their right to propose a government of their choosing through which all people can be effectively represented, do hereby adopt this charter.
Staten Island can be very, very proud of our decision tonight. We have made this decision out of conviction and out of common sense, based on our collective experiences as Staten Islanders and New Yorkers. It's been great to visit for the last 90-plus years, but now it's time to go, and go we will.
Everybody, no matter how they voted, and we have a special obligation to those who have placed their trust in us to proceed on this battle. But everyone who voted and everyone who participated made a contribution. Let that contribution be a positive one. Let it be an affirmation of democracy at work. And I know you can do it, and I know those folks out there who may have disagreed with us will be brought into this family, and they will strengthen our efforts.
100 years ago, the Chamber very much supported consolidation of the city of New York. This was no man's land. We were a small rural community, no chance of developing our own infrastructure, no chance of us supporting ourselves economically. in 100 years, we have come into our own. And we are an economic power, not just in the city, not just in the region, but in the state. This is now the second largest city in the state, if in fact secession moves to its logical conclusion. And this is the people of Staten Island taking control of the reins, taking control of their own destiny. And it is a great night for the people of Staten Island.
Starting in the next couple of days, our debate will shift from the streets and neighborhoods into the halls of the legislature. And I know you all share my confidence that your legislative team is ready to meet the challenge, and we will meet it successfully, and this will be a done deal.
We voted yes. The party's over. Now the big battles begin. The state legislature, along with Governor Mario Cuomo, have the final say. Much more on that when we continue. Later in our program, Election Part 2, the local winners, and much more. We'll be right back. Welcome back. As I stated before the break, voting and winning a yes for secession was the easy part. Now the big war begins as our new charter becomes the battleground in state legislature.
We all recognize that the next step may look that all that has gone before in the last 3 years, that may become to look like child's play. Because now we have an obligation to speak to the legislative leaders and to the governor and to each of the members of the legislature, especially those who represent the other 4 boroughs, to tell them that what has taken place today on Staten Island is no threat to them.
With the eyes of the nation and the world upon them, these leaders will now have to justify whether principles of freedom and self-rule are merely concepts that we export to other far-off places, or are fundamental virtues that are capable of being practiced here in the democratic cradle of the world.
As the process continues and our legislators and the commission, the Charter Commission, begins to develop the legislation to be sent up to Albany, they'll be coming back to their districts, they'll be coming back to their community groups, talking to them about the kinds of things that they're going to put in the legislation and how the process will continue. So there'll be plenty of opportunity for input from folks on Staten Island here as the process continues up in Albany and as we move forward in this. It'll be a developing issue. It won't be done tomorrow, and there are a number of items to work out, and people's views will be solicited during this process.
Staten Island secession commissioners have approximately 3 months to deliver secession legislation to Albany. First up will be the many committees within both the Assembly and the Senate. Once all committees have had their say, Assembly Speaker Sol Weprin and Senate Majority Leader Ralph Marino will decide whether or not to put it to a vote on the floor. If passed, the legislation lands on Governor Mario Cuomo's desk, where he could either approve it as law or veto it completely.
Now, if there's any conscience at work, if we're not going to engage in the rawest type of power politics, we will prevail.
Right. I think we can make that case to the legislature. I think we can win. We're certainly going to try as hard as we can. And before the 21st century, Staten Island will become the second largest city in the state of New York, thanks to all of you. God bless you.
Under completely perfect conditions, there could be a city of Staten Island by the year 1998. But since when has government been perfect? There's always a probability that newly elected Mayor Rudy Giuliani may attempt to placate us by offering Staten Island more power if we should decide to stay.